Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. My name is Peter Loshak. It's Week 10 in college football. Today is Friday, November 3rd, and we are talking with Steve from collegefootballwinning.com. We're going to take a look at the Oregon State Cal game that comes up tomorrow. And Oregon State, of course, terrible to start the year, then made a coaching change and got a lot less terrible. And certainly from an ATS perspective, turned a major corner. They're still losing games outright, but they've now covered 3 in a row since the coaching change, and this is their 4th game where they will possibly go for another cover, a 4th cover in a row. They opened as an 8-point underdog. Now they're down to 7, so they've taken some money. And Cal, of course, a very flawed, mediocre team. So I could easily see another outright loss, but ATS cover from Oregon State here. If not, maybe an outright win from Oregon State. Steve from collegefootballwinning.com. The line is now down to 7. What's your take on this game?
Great introduction,
Yeah.
Peter. I think you stole most of my thunder, but I will give you some details underlying that thunder. My reason for selecting this matchup to talk about this week is primarily because of Oregon State's renaissance since head coach Gary Anderson had departed, and Oregon State then promoted interim head coach Corey Hall from defensive backs. So looking at the football performance, the on-field performance impact of interim head coach Corey Hall. Before Corey Hall was interim head coach, their total offense average per game 307.6 yards. That's per game versus FBS competition. After Corey Hall took over as interim head coach, their total offense has surged to an average of 416.5 yards per game. So that's up 35.4%. Before Corey Hall took over as interim head coach, the total defense allowed an average of 489.6 yards per game versus the FBS. After Corey Hall took over as interim head coach, total defense allowed an average of just 303.5 yards per game. That's a decrease of 39.05%. If you put that together, Peter, you have a team pre-Corey Hall as interim head coach that was outgained by an average of 182 yards per game versus FBS competition. With Corey Hall as now their interim head coach, they're now outgaining their FBS opponents by an average of 113 yards per game. If we use average college football yards per point figures, that translates to a 20.21 points per game turnaround. So just massive. Looking at Cal, so what does Cal do well? Their passing offense is ranked 29th versus FBS competition, and they are 2nd in the country in interceptions. And of course, turnover margin, they're 43rd in turnover margin. Pretty good. So Oregon State, can they stop that 29th ranked passing offense? Oregon State's passing defense ranks 107th versus the FBS, allowing more than 266 passing yards per game. Sounds like bad news, right? Well, again, the theme of this, Corey Hall taking over as interim head coach. Corey Hall, a former defensive back himself, took over as interim head coach. Since that time, Oregon State's passing defense has allowed an average of just 160 passing yards per game. If that were their season-long average, instead of being their average with their head coach, their new interim head coach over the past 2 games, Oregon State would be ranked 4th in the country in stopping the pass. So it looks very deceiving. They overall 107th stopping the pass, but since Corey Hall took over as interim head coach, 4th in the nation stopping the pass. As for those interceptions that Cal has been counting on, 2nd in the country since Corey Hall took over, he's made no secret of wanting to establish the Beavers' offensive identity as a running team. And sure enough, that's borne out statistically. Oregon State is running the ball 43.09% more than they were before Corey Hall was the interim head coach. So Cal will have fewer and fewer opportunities to get those interceptions that they've been counting on and they've been so good at retrieving all season long. As for the turnover margin in general, Peter, you've heard me say it almost every week now. Turnovers or turnover margin as a statistical category is the most impactful yet most unpredictable or random of the critically significant college football metrics. sooner or later, you hear me say this all the time, there's going to be a regression to the mean in this pretty random category. You simply, put simply, you can't count on points off of turnovers. And besides, Cal will be without Devontae Downs, their senior captain inside linebacker, who still, even though he's missed the last 2 games, leads the team in interceptions, forced fumbles, fumble recoveries, and tackles. In the 2 games since Cal has been without him, they've had just 1 interception, and their turnover margin has been -1. Looking at the against the spread impact that Corey Hall has had as the interim head coach, Oregon State's average margin of victory against the spread before Corey Hall was promoted to interim head coach was -17 points per game. So that means they were failing to cover the spread by an average of 17 points per game. After Corey Hall took over as interim head coach, Oregon State's average margin of victory against the spread has gone up to plus 11.25 points per game. Cal, for their part, against the spread, they are 4-10 against the spread the last 6 seasons as a home favorite, as they are here. So my conclusion, as you could tell, Peter, I like Oregon State. You can get him at plus 7.5 still as we're recording this, both widely available here in Las Vegas and offshore. So I recommend going to a place like SBRodds.com and shopping around to get Oregon State plus 7.5.
Absolutely, Steve. Well, I happen to be on SBRodds.com right now, and I'm looking at SBRodds.com right now, and I am seeing mostly 7s, but 5 Dimes has 7.5, and more importantly, the Greek has 7.5, -110 on both sides. So that's a nice breakdown, Steve. Of course, I'm tending to agree with you here. Oregon State has turned an obvious corner, at least ATS-wise, since the coaching change, and that might continue in this game. Oregon State plus 7.5 is Steve's recommended play. Steve predicting a 4th straight ATS cover from Oregon State. Steve, tell us a little bit about collegefootballwinning.com for anyone who is watching your video for the first time here.
I'd be happy to. At collegefootballwinning.com, all the company does is college football betting analysis all year round. We're a company founded on making betting recommendations using sets of algorithms. We call those algorithmic betting recommendations our formula. The formula now, lifetime, and this is up to this moment, 60.46% against the spread. I think this will be the last week that I cite what we did last season. Last season, the formula was 62.26% against the spread. Been bragging about that for a while. This season, the formula has been out for 2 weeks. This is the 3rd week now. We're 10-3 with the formula this season against the spread. So that's 76.92%. If people want to come to collegefootballwinning.com and join us, the bad news is we are currently closed to new customers, new clients, but you can come to collegefootballwinning.com and join our waiting list, and we'd be happy if you did.
Awesome, Steve. Thanks so much. Talk to you next week.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.